This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Welcome to Late Boomers, our podcast guide to creating your third act with style, power, and impact. Hi, I'm Kathy Worthington.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Join us as we bring you conversations with successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and people with vision who are making a difference in the world.
Everyone has a story, and we'll take you along for the ride on each interview, recounting the journey our guests have taken to get where they are, inspiring you to create your own path to success. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Kathy Worthington. Welcome to Late Boomers. Today we have as our guest Blair Abee, president of Energetic Wave Publishing, author, poet, educator, and mystic.
And I'm Mary Elkins. He has written 5 books and numerous articles on meditation, manifestation, and mindfulness, and developed higher consciousness meditation after many years studying meditation and yoga. Welcome, Blair.
Mary, Kathy, lovely to be here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to have you.
Please tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up on the interesting journey you are on today.
Well, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in a Christian church. Went to school in North Carolina, and then came to California right after I finished college. It was quite a culture change from small town North Carolina to San Francisco, but fabulous. And before too long, I was involved in personal development. Started doing yoga at an ashram in downtown San Francisco, and of course, meditation was part of that practice. A fellow by the name of Swami Satchidananda, who was the guru who introduced Woodstock. And I've been doing yoga and meditation ever since. Spent a number of years in the Bay Area, went back to North Carolina for a while, came back to California. But I really didn't take a deep dive into my meditation practice and really began to discover some of the things that I write about in my book until about 6 years ago when I took a job in San Diego. It was an assistant state director job for the program that I was in. A big promotion and all of that. Well, it turned out my boss was a psychopath. It's the first time I ever had a bad boss supervisor. But she was abusing employees, mishandling funds. She was running the program into the ground. And before the year was out, I did a whistleblowing and let people know what was going on above us. Well, that caused a big furor, as you can imagine.
Sure.
An investigation was done. She got fired, but they fired me too. Often happens to whistleblowers. And I was considered to be a troublemaker because I had shined the light on them and their mismanagement of her, and that was a problem. So after doing the kind of work that I was doing for about 25 years, my career trajectory came to an end, my income came to an end, and I was devastated, as you can imagine. It was a very difficult time. I took a deep dive into my meditation practice for therapy and began journaling. And in the process of journaling, I began to have what I call soul contact, or contact with my higher self or higher consciousness, in a way that I didn't expect. And part of that just came through the journaling and the writing. And there would be times I'd be sitting at the computer and all of a sudden I'd get a sense of spirit moving and kind of flowing through my fingers and onto the keyboard and then onto the computer screen. So that was fabulous. I'd always wanted to have that kind of experience, but never had in my meditation practice. And after doing about 150,000 words of journaling, I began to realize that I had material for some books. And that was when I began to write. I never intended to be an author, um, and certainly didn't expect to be an author of spiritual books. But now I've done 6,
Oh, good
um,
for you.
and have uh, put them on the Kindle, Amazon Kindle platform, and that's
Hmm.
where I publish from. And
Mm.
that's where people can get all of my books if they're interested in that. Um, but it just started me off in a new direction and a new career. And as I look back at it now, I realize it's the best thing that could have happened. But at the time, it just seemed chaotic and totally discombobulating and
Yeah.
crazy making. But it was
Yeah.
as if my higher consciousness, my soul, really said, "Okay, we need to take a 90-degree turn here. We need to wake you up in a way that you haven't awakened before, and it's time for you to do something else." So
Mhm.
that's kind of the story of how I came to be here today talking with you.
Hmm.
Well, how do you combine that business world sensibility with meditation and mindfulness?
Yes. Um, I don't see any conflict between the two. In fact, I still do some business consultation. Um, um, uh, Although it's not my major focus these days. I still do that, and I really like working with clients. Um, uh, I think I bring maybe a little extra to my interaction with them as a result of my spiritual growth and my meditation practice. So I don't see them as being in conflict in any way. Although, of course, meditation is a whole different kind of undertaking
Hmm.
than business consultation, and it has a different purpose and it has a different outcome. But uh, in fact, interestingly enough, Google has combined the two. Google now has a very large program of uh, offering people meditation training. Um, and
Wow.
they have found that that people perform better. They have less absenteeism. They're more productive. They're more creative in meetings. I mean, the science on that, or the results that Google and other large companies have found as a result of
Mm.
offering this kind of training is very beneficial.
And they're letting the employees do that during their workday like that?
Well, I think so.
Meditation breaks?
Yeah, I, I've heard that they sometimes even start meetings with a little, moment of silence. But certainly, the individuals who have gone through the program will
Yeah.
find that doing mindfulness practices throughout the day to just remind themselves to wake up and to kind of breathe into that higher consciousness part of themselves is a way to silently and without anybody really knowing that you're doing that, do
Hmm.
meditation practice and get those benefits that we were just talking about from doing that type of
It
activity.
must make it a kinder, gentler workplace these days for those people who do go in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Especially
Mm.
if you're a supervisor or boss, you know, that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
it does that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That may make the job a little easier.
Yeah. And you have said that the fundamental tenet of your work is that we are all eternal beings. Can you tell our audience a little bit what you mean by that and
Yes.
why that is important?
Well, I think it's maybe one of the most important things that any one human being can come to realize in a lifetime. That they are not only human beings in three-dimensional biomechanical vehicles that we drive around in, but that we are also eternal beings, beings of higher consciousness, and that soul contact is possible, and that there's more to life than just the everyday running around, trying to get on top and trying to survive. Um, that by tapping into your higher consciousness or your higher self, that really provides dramatic enrichment to your life and also improves one's life, because when you meditate, when you raise your vibration, so your vibratory rate goes up, and the law of attraction, the law of vibration, would say that the energy that you put off is what you get back. So you attract to you the same kind of energy, people, circumstances, and events, um, uh, in a direct response to the energy that you're giving off. So if you're giving off a higher form of energy, then the likelihood of your life getting better increases. And that's certainly been my experience. And as I talk to lots of people who do meditation, they will often echo that their life just got better. Um, Often they don't understand why it got better, but my explanation is when you meditate, again, your consciousness, your consciousness goes up, your vibratory rate goes up, and the likelihood then of attracting things, good things to you, increases. I also think, that one of a human's um, significant accomplishments in life is in any life, because um, I think our soul kind of waits for us to recognize it in some lifetime. Now, I believe in past lives, so I believe that we come back over and over again. But I think over and over again we come back. We come back. We're asleep. We come into a society that's asleep. We stay asleep. We're hypnotized by what's going on. We die hypnotized, and that lifetime opportunity to wake up has been lost for that time. And the soul goes, next time, let's work on that a little more. So that was kind of my experience with my own soul contact. Is I got a sense that my soul had been waiting lifetimes really for me to wake up, and was right there as soon as I acknowledged it. It was right there wanting to um, interact with me, wanting to um, become my partner in this lifetime, in a way that I hadn't experienced really up until about 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, yeah, I do want to talk about that later, but as far as your soul
Yes,
contact, you mentioned some of the benefits of meditation,
right.
but you have a different method of your own that you call higher consciousness meditation. Is that right?
That's right.
And how's that different from other methods? And also,
Mhm.
tell us how it works.
I understand, and sure, I'll be happy to share that with you. My experience with meditation over a 45-year period of time is that I tried different types of meditation, different types of meditation training, in addition to the yoga meditation practice that I originally encountered. Almost all of the practices that I encountered were about training the mind to be quiet. Well, the mind doesn't want to be quiet. I mean,
Uh-uh.
if you've tried meditation before, you know
No.
exactly what I'm saying.
Oh,
The mind
yeah, Mary
never
and I
wants
are
Oh,
to
both
yeah.
be quiet. Yeah.
meditators. We both meditate, so we,
Okay.
we know
Yeah.
where
You
you're
know
coming from.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the mind
Um,
is talking all the time. It never
that's right.
stops.
And it's constantly um, um, surveying the past. It's
Uh-huh.
constantly projecting into the future. What could happen? How can I avoid a problem? How can I get a benefit? How can I get on top? Um, uh, how can I be successful? And seldom is just in the moment. And of course, that's what meditation is about, whether it's a sit down meditation type practice or whether it's mindfulness meditation, which is short pauses throughout the day where
Yeah.
you um, say something to yourself like peace, be still, or I breathe higher consciousness, or something that reminds you, and by taking a deep breath actually can put you, at least for a moment, into that state of mind. And it's a lovely state of mind. And it's something that I do frequently throughout the day as a way of accentuating the longer sit down meditation practice that I do in the morning and in the evening. So I do that in the morning, I do longer meditation in the evening, and then I do mindfulness meditation um, uh, sayings, if you will, mantras, uh, to just remind myself to just wake myself up. So my higher consciousness meditation practice is intended to bypass all of that mind training, because all of that mind training is difficult. It can take years to train your mind. Your mind doesn't want to be trained. It's kind of like a wild horse that doesn't want to be trained. It doesn't want to be broken. Um, and the higher consciousness meditation practice is one where, well, I'll just demonstrate. It starts with saying, "Peace, be still," taking a deep breath, pausing, letting that breath out, and then just settling into that state. And then offering up several open ended statements that are intended to have a response where you get a sense of, first and foremost, God or the all. I like to use the all instead of God because God's such a loaded word. And where you also invite your soul or your higher self to respond to a statement, higher conscious, or uh, the all is, pause, and then see what you get back as a response. Like, you might get something like, the all is omnipresent. Well, if that's a response, then you can immediately tap into that sense of the universe being and the all being omnipresent, and you being part of that. So then you say to yourself, "I'm one with that." Then you say to yourself, "Higher consciousness is," and leave it as an open-ended statement, or "soul is," and leave it as an open-ended statement, and see what comes back. Now, it might take 5, 10, 20 times before you begin to get some kind of response. But the beauty of that is that the all wants you to know about it. And certainly your soul or your higher consciousness wants you to know about it. So there will be a response, and you begin to get an uplift. You'll begin to get a sense of what that's about, and the thoughts start just kind of drop away or melt away automatically. The next step of it is to just say to yourself, "I am an eternal being, and I'm one with the all. I'm one with my higher consciousness." And then you finish up by saying, "Illuminate, elevate, radiate." So you're getting a sense of illumination, you're getting a sense of elevating consciousness, and then you're radiating that into your world, which is a benefit not only to you, but to your world by itself, in and of itself. Then you can pause and just be with that sense or feeling that you get from doing that for as long as you wish. If you only have a minute or two, a minute or two, in which case it would take about 5 minutes. If you have 10, 15, 20 minutes, you can just kind of marinate there in that sense of allness and in that sense of having made soul contact with your higher self.
I love that
I love
method.
that.
So
That's
it's like
beautiful.
meditation 2.0 is one of the ways that I like to
Uh-huh.
describe it. It's just kind of an upgrade in kind of meditation practices that I encountered in my meditation training.
I like that idea of the open question in your mind and
Then it's
listening for a response.
whatever you get is what you get. You can even change it up a little bit if you need to, but it's what you get back. It's not a prescribed something or other. It's your own experience of that, and people
Mm.
said they really love it.
Let's talk about a little bit about mindfulness.
Okay.
Because you have a set of sacred sense mindfulness practices, and
Yes.
maybe you could give us some examples of some of your mindfulness exercises.
Yes. My favorite, and it's not really a sense per se, as in a five sense, but it's a spiritual sense, I think, or a sacred sense, which is just a sacred breath and having a sense that spirit has moved as a result of you just having taken that breath. You settle in, you expand out, and you're just there.
Mm.
Another sacred sense is the ability to see with sacred eyes. So, example I like to use is going to the grocery store. Sometimes I'll go to the grocery store, and if I remember to do this, and I try and remember this every time I go, if I take a deep breath and fuzz my eyes up a little bit and look out into the grocery store, I begin to see that there's something else going on besides just three-dimensional reality, that there's life force going on, that everybody I'm seeing, I'm seeing in a little bit different way. I'm maybe even seeing their auras. You know the term namaste,
Hmm.
which means it's the Hindu greeting, namaste, means the higher consciousness in me acknowledges the higher consciousness in you. Well, that's what happens is when you say namaste in that way, you actually begin to see the essence of that other person. You see them from a sacred perspective. um, you see their higher consciousness or their essence. Now, you can imagine if you're dealing with your kids or grandchildren, or if you're dealing with a spouse and you've sort of shifted your consciousness and you're seeing their essence or their higher selves, that's going to be a little bit different interaction with that person than if you just are in three-dimensional reality and you're just going in, kind of things that we do with each other. Um, so that's a couple of examples of the
Hmm.
use of sacred senses. But every sense has a degree of sacredness about it. For example, if you think of sacred tasting, that would mean the way that you taste your food. Um, shift your consciousness into kind of a sense of sacredness about the food and the supply chain, gratitude that brought you that food. All of a sudden, the food sort of takes on a different essence. And if you'll chew it slowly um, uh, and mindfully, and taste the textures and the spices, you can cut the whole experience of eating an apple becomes a different experience. So that's what I term sacred senses, which means again shifting your consciousness as you see, touch, taste, feel, breathe, um, um, as a way of life, in a way, as a way of interacting with the world.
That's in a way, that's like what the ancient civilizations did when they they actually hunted their own food and they said blessings over it, as a lot of
Yes,
people do
right.
at the dinner tables
Yes. So the
these days.
thankfulness to the deer for having sacrificed itself for you. Yes. Um,
Hmm.
we did my wife and I did a vegetarian cooking class at the ashram that I learned meditation. And one of their practices is to have everybody's preparing the food do so in silence and then eat in silence as well. And that's a good way to um, interact with the cooking of the food and cooking love into the food, as opposed to, oh, I don't know, disregard or even annoyance, that you're doing the cooking. Um, Cooking love into the food and then experiencing that food and gratitude and in tastefulness.
Yeah.
The way they
Oh, I
do.
love that.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
nice?
Mm-hmm. Very
Yeah.
nice.
You talked a bit about souls before,
Yes.
and I would like very much to learn more about soul contact,
Okay.
what it is,
Yeah.
and even more, how do you make soul contact?
Right. Well, I think each one of us has a protector, a higher consciousness, a soul, and um, I think many people um, have heard about that. We each have a soul, but don't understand what that means. The meditation practice that I was talking about earlier, or even as I was saying, doing the journaling, and all of a sudden um, tapping into that part of myself that I would consider to be my soul as I was doing my writing, led me to have a firm conviction that there is a part of me that is soul, that is higher self, that is wiser, that's in fifth dimensional reality, that is going before me, if I allow it to smooth out the path. Um, uh, and that's available to all of us because it's there for all of us. Now, again, if you don't recognize it, if you don't come to know that, it's as if it doesn't exist. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody who hasn't had that experience would say, "Well, that can't be true. I haven't had that experience." Well, no, if you haven't had an experience, then it's not true for you. But for those people who have had that experience, um, uniformly, it's a lovely experience because that makes available to you a relationship that um, is beneficial in a number of ways. In fact, I even have a little practice that I use for um, manifestation that is an acknowledgement of soul contact. If you like, I'll share that with you.
Please.
The way
Yes.
that practice goes, and it's called the best possible outcomes
Hmm.
practice or the best possible outcomes process. That
Huh?
starts, as with the meditation practice that we talked about earlier, with a peace be still, settling into that space, if you will, and then saying, I ask for the best possible outcome related to the podcast that I'm about to go into with Mary and Kathy, which I did prior to this, or to the best possible outcome for a parking place, or to the best possible outcome for my need for transportation. Um, so you're asking for the best possible outcome and then pausing, taking a breath, and getting a sense that your higher consciousness, your soul, has engaged, has moved in a way. And then thanking soul for its participation in your life or it's your relationship with that part of yourself. Now, if you've ever done any manifestation work, you'll recognize this as being, number one, very simple, but also very powerful because it begins with an ask to your higher self. I ask for, and then it um, proceeds on to the best possible outcome related to something, but not a specific prescription for what the outcome should be. It's not a BMW appearing in my driveway tomorrow. It's not a board, with pictures and all the, doing a lot of uh, repetitious uh, wishing for that. I don't think God is a Santa Claus. I don't, but I think what's possible is to engage with your higher consciousness that knows you intimately and knows what's best for you and your personal growth and your personal evolution, and will move in a way that will facilitate your the highest possible outcome, the greatest possible outcome for a particular ask. And then there's the thanking of that part of yourself for its participation in your life. So you're basically turning it over to your soul or to your higher self. So that's one of the ways that I engage with my higher self, which I like to call high C, sort of affectionately.
I see.
High C,
That's good. I like that.
as a way to do a different manifestation exercise than you normally hear in the world of manifestation and The Secret and all
Mhm.
those kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, we've all learned, and a lot of our guests on this podcast have talked about the importance of gratitude. So
Yes.
please talk about gratitude and why does it work?
Right.
How does it work and why does it work?
Well, to me, gratitude is similar to meditation itself. Gratitude puts you into a higher state of consciousness. And in a higher state of consciousness, again, the tendency is to attract better people, circumstances, and events into your life. So it's a very beneficial thing to do, but it also then blesses your world. So
Mhm.
you're not only rising up in consciousness uh, when you do some kind of gratitude practice, but you're also blessing that thing about which you're grateful. So it's not unusual for me in fixing breakfast for myself in the morning and doing a whole thing to be very grateful to the supply chain, of which there are many parts, that have food appearing in my refrigerator and on my shelves that I don't have to go out and kill, and that I don't have to hunt and gather, but is right there and available for me to enjoy. Um, so I think that's why gratitude is so helpful. It's kind of like the best possible outcomes practice. You rise up in consciousness and you set up a vibratory rate which is beneficial for you as well as for the world around you and for whatever it is that you're grateful for.
I love that.
I, lo-
Good
I was about
explanation.
to say that too. I love that too. And as far as I, I can't, I love the best possible outcome idea.
Yes.
And I'm going to try it from now on. But I have to ask you,
Right.
have you been surprised by it actually happening? Can you relay a few incidents where you actually did wish for the best possible outcome and there it was in front of
Yes.
you?
Yes. Sure. And I use it all the time. And you can use it for anything. You can use it for anything small. You can use it for anything that's big. It has no limitations as far as its use is concerned. Good example. We were looking for a house to buy. This was 4 years ago. And it was at the height of uh, the buying boom here in California, and so it was hard to find a place. And we put in offers on 4 or 5 houses, and each time we got aced out of the offer didn't happen. It was going to people often with full cash offers and higher than the asking price. Um, so it was right in there that I was developing the best possible outcome practice. So I decided that I would use it. And one day we were looking at Zillow, and there was a picture of a house on Zillow, uh, and it looked like a ratty place. It didn't look like much of anything. But I looked at where it was on the map, and I thought, this maybe, just maybe this is a possibility. So we went and drove by the house, and it was interesting looking, and you could see that there was a view in the back. So we asked our realtor to show us the house. Well, he took us in, and his first reaction is, "Ugh, this is terrible. you're not interested in this house. And my first reaction was, oh, this is fabulous. Because I have remodeling in my background, I have some construction in my background. And I could see that this house had great bones, that it was what we needed in terms of a single story house, that it had plenty of room, that it had a great deck out back, although it needed to work on. It was way overgrown. The guy hadn't done anything with it in 5, 10 years maybe. Um, but and because it was not very well presented, not many people had actually gone to see the house.
Mhm.
So we put in an offer. It turned out there was already an offer in, but our real estate agent, when we next talked to him, was in L.A. with the owner's real estate agent at a conference, and they consummated a deal.
But
I mean,
along the way, you were doing your outcomes work.
yeah, it's just um, I thought, maybe this does work. Maybe this will work. So the more I use it, the more it works, and it does come forth in surprising ways sometimes. I have sort of in the back of my mind, well, this is what I'd like to have the outcome be, but I know that I have to put that aside because I know that the best possible outcome isn't necessarily the specific thing that I have in my mind, but it's what I will allow spirit to provide. And
Just
that
so often it's something we can't even think of
it's
what
something
that would
different.
be.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
can't
That's
imagine
right.
it.
precisely, exactly. Parking place. Well, it maybe
Oh
not be
yeah.
that the best place to park is right out front. It may be that I need to be down the street and then be walking by a store and look in and see something that really is something special and that would go well in the house. And that's why I need to, not be right in front of the restaurant, but down the street a little bit. So it's interesting to just kind of then observe if you're using this practice, just to kind of observe and allow, and then be grateful for whatever the outcome is. I wouldn't have said the best outcome for losing my job, and moving to California to take this job was what it was, and I couldn't even have imagined that I would be sitting here today doing what I'm doing with you lovely ladies. And writing and doing some kind of amazing things. It wasn't even on my radar screen that this would be the outcome 5 years, 8 years later.
It's beautiful. What would you
Yeah.
like our listeners to have as a takeaway today, Blair?
Well, I'd like to offer a copy of my book, the Mindfulness book. What I'll do is send people an
Good.
e-version, electronic version. If what they
Mhm.
do is go to my website, highcmeditation.com. That's HI capital C, as in the high C note or higher consciousness, highcmeditation.com. They can request a copy, and I'll email it to
Okay.
them, and happy to share that with them.
That
That's
sounds
great.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Thank you so much, Blair.
You're
Our
welcome.
guest Our guest today on Late Boomers has been Blair Abee, entrepreneur, author, poet, educator, mystic, and explorer of the world of higher consciousness. And as Blair said, you can reach him at highcmeditation.com. That's HI with a capital C and meditation.com, and ask for one of his books.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we want to remind our listeners that we now have our own YouTube channel, Late Boomers Podcast. So watch us on there and please subscribe. Also, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you don't miss any of our weekly episodes and you can take us hiking and you can take us cooking. And follow us on Instagram at Late Boomers and at I am Kathy Worthington and at I am Mary Elkins. We hope that our episode today entertained and inspired you. Thank you so much again, Blair.
You're welcome. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. for joining us on Late Boomers, the podcast that is your guide to creating a third act with style, power, and impact. Please visit our website and get in touch with us at Lateboomers.biz. If you would like to listen to or download other episodes of Late Boomers, go to ewnpodcastnetwork.com.
This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other major podcast sites. We hope you make use of the wisdom you've gained here and that you enjoy a successful third act with your own style, power, and impact.